ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all aboard and welcome aboard the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum's Missionary Ridge Local. Train number 100, round trip service to East Chattanooga and return. Now my name is Justin and I'll be your tour guide and historian for this journey back in time. Your conductor today is Bo, your trainman is Jonathan, your fireman is Zach, and your engineer is Travis, and this is Tennessee Valley Train number 100. Now this trip in particular is a historic journey and not a scenic journey. Meaning the focus of our trip today will be the history of our line and our equipment, rather than what you may see out the window. But this trip in particular is a 55-minute experience, not a 55-minute ride. It includes 15 to 20 minutes of travel in each direction, over the 3 miles of track donated to us by the Southern Railway. It also includes a 20 to 25-minute layover in East Chattanooga, where we'll have a brief demonstration of our turntable, as well as a behind-the-scenes look at our back shop. Now before we can make our way west to our East Chattanooga depot today, we do have to turn our train around. Now to do so, we're going to be using our YWYE. Now the Y is a triangular shaped junction in the track with switches in all 3 corners, surrounding our Grand Junction station. Our locomotive and train today will essentially be doing a 3-point turn. We'll first proceed forward up the base leg of our Y. Now once we clear the switch at the top of the base leg, we'll be reversing around the east leg. But more on that movement in just a few moments.
That was a lot of talking for the first 2 minutes there. Lord have mercy, think about the next 15. You want to give the tour for me?
No, you need to get spun. No, do you need to get spun?
We're going west to east, trying to
You have to back up and go back that way. Listen to them.
You complain so much, they're canceling the train ride.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now reversing around the east leg of our Y. Your trainman Jonathan is currently on the rear of our train, protecting the chef for the engineer. Jonathan is essentially Travis's eyes for the moment. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we reverse around the east leg of our Y, everyone make sure you wave farewell to our beautiful Grand Junction station, as you may not see it for a day or two, a week at the most. Now, ladies and gentlemen, never fear, we've never been longer than 2. So once again, everyone make sure you wave farewell to that beautiful Grand Junction station over to the left of our train.
Or maybe related to him.
It sounds right.
Yeah.
We're going this way.
Crossing like the
Yeah. Until we figure out which way we were going.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, also as we reverse around the east leg of our Y, I'd like for everyone to take a look out to the right side of our train. To the right side of our train today, you will see a rocky embankment. Now, that rocky embankment is lined with igneous limestone, folks, although many people do take it for granted. Now, folks, that will be the end of the rock puns for the day. I'm not sure about you guys, but I think that pun was marvelous.
You want to get closer to the mic?
And I promise that will truly be the end of the rock puns, as we have reached the top portion of our east leg known as the tail track. Now, once our locomotive is clear of the switch at the top of the tail track, and we receive our green signal, we can proceed west, down the west leg of our Y, beginning our westbound journey. But once again, more on that movement in just a few moments.
This one.
I tell you what, the best thing about this job or this position is I found more comfort in dress clothes now than I had in like athletic wear. It's the weirdest thing. Because like I was on a trip the other day. And I was wearing
Largest historic operating railroad in the South.
Nice.
They did, but these have these are red wing boots, and they've got the special made insoles for them for arch support. So that's probably what's going on. So, but I don't know how I got off on the fancy work shoes.
I already said Alfredo.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now making our way down the west leg of RY, beginning our westbound journey to our East Chattanooga depot. Just think about that for just a few moments. Well, ladies and gentlemen, beginning that westbound journey means that you are currently traveling on one of the very first railroads into the Chattanooga area. And this railroad was completed in 1858 by the East Tennessee and Georgia Railway Company. Now, the ET&T would merge with a number of other railroads over time to eventually become the famous Southern Railway in 1894. Now, the Southern Railway would continue to use this ferry line up until the mid-1950s. In fact, in World War II, this line would see up to as many as 70 trains per day. Now, in the 1950s, this line would be abandoned in favor for a new route, which you can see to the right of our train in just a moment, up on the embankment behind Grand Junction Station. Now, the line that was built to replace our line here is still in service today, although it is currently being leased out to CSX. Or, excuse me, it is currently being used by Norfolk Southern. Got my railroads confused there for just a moment. Now, of course, after the Southern Railway would abandon this line, they would donate over 3 miles of track to us here at the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum, which we have been operating on ever since.
I don't know where I got the CSX from there, bro. Well, I remember we talked about the CSX a lot. I know we're talking about
Water to ride to South Water.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, you are not traveling on the original right-of-way of the East Tennessee and Georgia Railway. The original right-of-way would lie just to the left of our train now, today marked by a gravel road. Now, the line was elevated to its current height and position in the early decades of the 20th century, due to numerous occasions of flooding. As an example of that flooding, in just a few moments, to the left of our train, you will see a sign. To the right of that sign will be a tree with a yellow line painted on it. Now, that yellow line represents the high water mark of the Great Flood of 1867. Now, at 9 feet above the track, it explains why the line would have to be elevated. Now, the Great Flood of 1867 was one of many examples of flooding in the downtown Chattanooga area. That issue of flooding would not be resolved until the construction of the Chickamauga Dam during the Great Depression. Ladies and gentlemen, the first car of our train should be passing over our bridge now, which means that you're currently crossing over our first bridge over South Chickamauga Creek. In the water's below, you may spot some turtles, river otters, or geese. To the left of our train, you may have spotted a set of stone piers. Those stone piers mark the site of the original bridge. Now, other than the wooden decking that the rails would have run on, that bridge was constructed entirely of stone. It would unfortunately be washed away in a flood of 1861. Now, at the time of that washout, there was unfortunately a train coming. The engineer of that train not seeing the bridge had washed away in time, and, well, let's just say, the engineer in his train that day would go for a little bit of a swim, an unfortunate one at that. We're now beginning to cross over our second bridge over the Western and Atlantic Railroad. That line you see below us there was the first railroad in Chattanooga, being completed in 1850 by the state of Georgia. And interestingly enough, today in 2022, that line is still owned by the state of Georgia, although it is currently being leased out to CSX. Now, that line is also home to a very famous story from the Civil War. Some of you may have heard of it, and that would be the Great Locomotive Chase, or Andrews Railroad Raid. For those of you that have not heard of it, the Great Locomotive Chase was the story of James Andrews and 23 others known as Andrews Raiders. Their plans were quite simple. They would travel to Big Shanty, Georgia, which today Kennesaw, and steal a locomotive named the General, while it was on a fuel, water, and meal stop. They would then race the General all the way north to Chattanooga, while burning bridges and destroying track and telegraph wires in an effort to sever the crucial Confederate supply artery. Now, all was going according to plan for Andrew's Raiders until they saw black smoke rising behind them. At first, they believed it was a bridge they had just attempted to burn. That is, up until they heard a whistle. Now, blowing that whistle was the General's conductor, William Fuller. He first pursued his locomotive on foot, then by handcar, a succession of locomotives, and finally in the famous locomotive he would commandeer, named the Texas. Now, when Conductor Fuller would take the Texas, it was facing south. So for the duration of his chase, Conductor Fuller would have to run the locomotive in reverse. Now, luckily enough for him, folks, the General would run out of fuel just north of Ringgold, Georgia, about 18 miles down the track from Chattanooga. All the men were caught, 8 of them, including Andrews himself, were unfortunately hanged in Atlanta as spies. The rest of the men would either escape prison or were exchanged for Confederate prisoners. Now, Andrews Raiders were the first ever to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor. Mr. Andrews himself would not, as he was a civilian and was not eligible. If you'd like to learn more on the topic, there are many books and films based on the event, such as Buster Keaton's silent film, The General, and one of Walt Disney's lesser-known films from the 1950s, also titled The Great Locomotive Chase, starring Fess Parker.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is one good thing about riding in the live entertainment car, as I like to call it. And that is that you guys get to see something that the rest of the train does not. And that is a few of my favorite trees. Everybody pay close attention as they are in a very particular order. My favorite trees are in this order. I truly do like this one, that one down there, and that pine tree over the right. We call that pine tree Chris Pine.
Ladies and gentlemen, just a few moments ago, you may have noticed that we crossed over our third bridge over Tunnel Boulevard. And that Tunnel Boulevard bridge is the only place where we can legally run over cars on our railroad. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now making our climb up Missionary Ridge, but rather than travel over it, we're going to be traveling through it, through the Missionary Ridge Tunnel, completed in 1858 by the East Tennessee and Georgia Railway. Now, this Missionary Ridge Tunnel, here's the reason that the line would eventually be abandoned. After World War II, the railway's equipment was becoming much too large to fit into the pre-Civil War era tunnel. Also, the tunnel was single track, while the rest of the line was double track, creating a major bottleneck. A new line will be constructed just to the north, which bypasses Missionary Ridge altogether. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a flashlight app on your cell phone, I do encourage you to have those out at this time to illuminate the tunnel walls as we pass through them. At times, there can be less than a foot of clearance between us and these tunnel walls, so good thing we don't have any open windows. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you listen very, very carefully, you'll be able to hear the whistle of our locomotive, signaling our approach to the tunnel. So everyone listen very, very carefully for the whistle of that locomotive.
Folks, I do apologize. It seems my timing was a bit off that trip.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard the 111-year-old voice of the 4501 signaling our approach to the tunnel, meaning that we will be entering the tunnel walls at any moment, which means that it is my favorite time of the day, folks, and that is tunnel time in Tennessee. That's right, folks. Now 186 feet of history, it is the Missionary Ridge Tunnel. Tunnel time in Tennessee.
Yay!
Now, folks, if you do have your flashlight out, make sure you put your phones right up against the glass of the cars, and you can see just how close we are to the walls of the tunnel. Now, folks, at times we are less than 10 inches from the walls of the Missionary Ridge Tunnel. And if you pay very close attention, you may notice a crystalline substance forming on the walls of the tunnel. I before Justin, are those diamonds growing along your tunnel walls? Now, unfortunately, they are not diamonds. That is the accumulation of coal, soot, and cinders ever since 1858. So just a little bit of a fact there for you.
No more time.
It's something cool though. Pre-Civil War tunnel.
See, time just flies on the railroad.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now on the west side of Missionary Ridge, which means that we are approaching my favorite place in the world, and that is our East Chattanooga Depot. Now, folks, while in East Chattanooga today, we'll have a brief demonstration of our turntable, where we will rotate our locomotive 180 degrees for the return trip to Grand Junction. And we will also have a behind-the-scenes look at our back shop, where we restore, maintain, and inspect our railroad equipment. Now, also in East Chattanooga today, we will have our depot available for business. Inside this depot, there will be snacks, drinks, restrooms, and ice cream. Now, you do also have the option of remaining on board the train here in East Chattanooga. Now, folks, I do highly encourage everyone to join me off the train if you are able, as this is one of the last places in the world where you can still see what's about to take place. If you choose to join me off the train, we do have a few brief safety rules we ask you to follow. Now, I do need everyone's attention as these are vitally important, so please do listen carefully. Rule 1 is to please stay with the group at all times, as this is a guided tour, so please do not wander off.
Easy.
Rule 2 is to please not climb on any of the equipment you may see around the property. I know it can look very fun, but it is very dangerous. Rule 3 is to please stay on the concrete pathway at all times, so do not wander onto any tracks, gravel, or ballast. And finally, Rule 4 is, of course, my favorite, to have fun. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please do remain seated until we come to a complete stop. We will let you know when it is safe to head towards the exits. Once off the train in East Chattanooga, just take a left turn and head on down to our turntable. Once everyone is gathered on the turntable, we will begin our demonstration. Now, for this portion of the tour, we will be joined by our trainman, Mr. Shields. He'll be taking over the tour, but I'll meet you guys in the back shop. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, please do remain seated until we come to a complete stop.
Make sure you double check them rails.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to be the first person to personally welcome you to East Chattanooga. We're so happy to have you guys here today, folks. We hope you all enjoy your time here in the thriving metropolis of East Chattanooga. Once again, folks, welcome to East Chattanooga.
Once again, folks, welcome to East Chattanooga. Mr. Shields will be leading the tour on the turntable. And then the best part of our tour, our back shop tour, will be led by me, so I look forward to seeing you guys there. Once again, welcome to East Chattanooga, everybody.
And then we get second tunnel time.
There's a tag. GP30 or whatnot.
Station is not East Chattanooga, right this way.
Oh my gosh. You can grab it for me? Oh, you have it. Okay, good. I was going to say, you didn't even grab it. No, I was trying to think I was
Did you tell her what she Did you tell her what she was doing with that?
Yeah.
So happy to have you guys today. Welcome to East Chattanooga, folks. Welcome to East Chattanooga, everybody. Welcome all to Washington. Come down there.
Johnny Cash back there. Old pages for The what? The round faster? For freight, passenger freight? Yeah, I know.
And we have a lot of people on TripAdvisor, and the reviews say that we took a short trip and we went to an old rusty rundown rail yard. I want you to understand something and try to keep your mind open. We do have longer trips. This is just a small glimpse of the golden age of railroading, but even more importantly, what we do here and what from generation to generation has been taught to the employees, something as far as restoring a 1911 steam locomotive, a 1904 steam, 1920s, 1930s, and 1920s dining cars. That's done right here on site. We have everything we need here on property at East Chattanooga to do every type, every bit of the restoration. The only thing we don't have directly here on property is an iron foundry. We have a Chattanooga foundry we have contract locally with. Now let's go ahead and talk about the history of this turntable. This turntable, I dare say, that is much, much older than turntables that are still in existence for that matter. Much older than you're going to find in existence, and not only in existence, but operational. This turntable was originally built for the Central Georgia Railway. It was built in Ambridge, Pennsylvania, by the American Bridge and Iron Company there. It was delivered to Macon, Georgia, used by the Central Georgia Railway. They had a small locomotive repair shops. It was out in the open, and it was used there for several years. So it was built in 1916, delivered to Macon. After it was removed from Macon, it was taken and installed in Cedartown, Georgia, Polk County, just south of Rome, Georgia, and used with a smaller version of the Central Georgia's locomotive repair shops there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when this turntable was first built, first manufactured, we have the advantage of a motorized table today. But when it was first installed, in both of those locations I just talked about, you were turning these locomotives by hand. Okay? So before I get into the weight, just how much of weight that would be to turn, can I have about 4 volunteers? How many feel daring and brave today? Uh-oh. There's 1. There's 2. Come on, guys. 3. Where's my 4th one? All right, there we go. The only thing I'm asking you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is turn 280 tons. That's not that big of a deal, right? Let me give you an example, comparison-wise to how much weight that is. If you know an average school bus weighs 13 tons, a lot of those school buses stacked on top of each other. Let me talk about it. The weight of the table itself is 80 tons. It's about 80 feet long, weighs 80 tons, and the combination of the locomotive and its tender is right around 200 tons. Okay? Now, how in the world, when they didn't have a motorized table, we have a 25 horsepower motor to do the job today, okay, but those 4 individuals who raised their hands, you'll have to help us out in case we have an issue with the motor. But how would they do that? Sounds impossible. No, it's not. Not just a silly pun, but the whole operation is quite literally a balancing act. Right here where I'm standing, you can't see it because of the metal bridge plate, but underneath and in the center of this table is a 6-foot bearing. So you have to get the weight of whatever locomotive you're using balanced over the top of that bearing. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and bring our engine on the table, and we'll start talking very specifically about the 4501's history. Ladies and gentlemen, Locomotive 4501, built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works up in Philadelphia. 4501 was the very first of its class out of 182 MS 282 Mikados. Let's talk about those numbers, what that means. Okay? Now remember, it was the very first out of that class to be directly built for the Southern Railway. It's the only one left of the 182. So, with that being said, I want you to look at something that's not common on a moving object, like a steam locomotive. That plaque is the National Registry of Historic Places. Does that give you a little understanding of how rare and important this locomotive is, as far as history is
Just
concerned?
like out there, that table.
Anytime you read about the description of a steam locomotive, you're going to see numbers. A prefix of numbers is simply referring to the wheel arrangement on a locomotive like 4501. This is a 282. So you start counting wheel sets, 2 or more things that look alike. So you set of twins up there, those leader pilot wheels, that's 2. Then you count the larger driving wheels. 1, 2, 3, 4. Obviously 4 on both sides, so 2, 4 plus 4 is 8. And 2 trailing wheels right there underneath the cab. All right? This was built as a freight locomotive, delivered to the Southern Railway and used up in the Bulls Gap, Tennessee area around the Knoxville and East Tennessee Division. And right around the end of its Southern Railway career, in 1948, when Southern, being a very large, thriving railroad, when the technology becomes that of diesel locomotive power, just like a business today, you want to stay in business, you're going to embrace the latest technology. The diesel locomotives are cleaner, much more efficient. Higher rates of speed can be accomplished, less maintenance, right? So, some of these locomotives, like the 4501, survive because they're sold second-hand to smaller branch line or smaller railroad operations. 4501 was originally built by Baldwin, about $23,500, which is a lot, in the early 1900s, okay? They were sold to the K&T for $8,000. The Kentucky and Tennessee line that would operate up in the coal mining industries between Kentucky, Stearns, Kentucky, and the Tennessee mountains. Renumbered number 12. But even by the early 1960s, the K&T wanted to dieselize their fleet. This comes up for sale. One of the 2 founding members of the museum buys this locomotive and saves it at a price tag of $5,000.